Welcome to the Vocalise panel. This is a collaboration between Spirit Studios in Manchester and Vochlea technology company, which is based in London. So welcome to our discussion this evening. I am very excited to be co-hosting or co-chairing this panel with Danny, who's also known as Dirty Freud. When the other two panelists are all settled, I will get everybody to introduce themselves. But for now, you're just going to have to be preoccupied with our two beautiful faces.
100%.
I'll give a brief introduction of myself and then I'll hand over to you. So for those who have never met me before or seen me before, it's unlikely you've met me before because we've all been indoors for a year. My name is Jenny Bullcraig. I'm also a producer known as Rooks. And I work with the Vochlea team specializing in social media and creating content for them to show off their product, which is called Doubler, which transforms voice into MIDI and allows you to do things like basically trigger samples or build beats or play instruments with your voice. So that's me, that's my little pitch. And I'll now say, Danny, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'm Danny Skerritt. I go under the name Dirty Freud. I'm a live musician, music producer, do the odd remix, philanthropist. No, I'm joking. I just threw that one in. But yeah, like, and I teach at Spirit Studios as well, electronic music, as well as like part of like the business course too. So like those are the main things I do. So.
Okay, so we're still being a bit having some technical issues with getting our two panelists involved. So what they've actually suggested is that you and I start the discussion around the topics and just have a chat, I guess. So the first question on the agenda is, how do you identify yourself as an artist?
Wow, that's always a tough one. Like I'd say like as an artist, I identify myself like as a like Black British electronic artist. Like that's how I see it. Like, you know, the sort of like music that I create is kind of like, it's electronic. It's got like kind of a dub element to it, but it's also like wrapped in like my British upbringing. Do you know what I mean? Like in like coming from like Holloway, like there was a lot of like garage, there was a lot of ska.
Yes.
So like those sort of things kind of like helped like create like the sort of music that I make. So so identity for me is like kind of like a melting pot of like influences growing up, and like, you know, like music that like my grandparents like brought over during Windrush as well. Like that kind of stuff sticks to like the kind of identity of my music, the way it sounds, the way it's packaged, you know.
Yeah, like what, can you give us some examples of the music they brought over?
So like it was a lot of like, so there was like Creole music. There was also like a lot of like reggae, a lot of like this weird like mad, like I love it still, but like this mad like it's like it's like patois music. So like my grandparents are from like Dominica as well, so like the combination of Caribbean and French, so like that whole idea of like of poetry as well, like within the lyrics, and switching between English to French back to like Caribbean, and it all being packaged into like a nice like composition, if I was being serious. but yeah, like, and it just sounded dope, and that definitely really like influenced the sort of stuff that like I make, and everyone was like storytellers as well. I'm really into that, like the stories that people make like instrumentally and with like lyrics and that kind of stuff used to in captivating me. I think that's why I've got a guilty pleasure for country music as well. So, like, but yeah, I love a story. I love a sad story.
That all sounds like really rich and exciting in terms of being able to draw on so much, like all those, as you say, that melting pot of influences. That sounds, I love it. I love it. I love anything that really doesn't like stick with its genre, within its genre, or purposefully starts to wander or experiment into other genres and isn't like afraid to look back in order to make something.
100%.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, maybe Zachary's back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
Now set up.
Amazing.
Nice.
Can you hear us clearly?
Yes.
Amazing. That's great. Oh, well, you literally popped in at the perfect moment, because we were just starting to talk about the first question. But actually we can Zachary, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Zachary Agaizu. I'm producer, artist in different kind of medias. Also really into improvising, and I'm really happy to have this discussion about identity with you guys.
Amazing. That's cool. Okay, so Danny just answered this question. Now, how do you identify yourself as an artist? To like very briefly to answer the question myself, because it's more interesting to talk about you guys, is like, I am aware that like I identify as a queer artist, and that's like something that has evolved over time. Like I think it's the same for lots of people, like whatever it is that they feel like, because all brings their unique perspective to what they're doing. Because, you know, we talk, like I've heard people talk recently in a conversation I had about how the fact that nothing's original anymore. You know, it's almost impossible to like come up with something that's original, but all we can offer is our unique perspectives on the influences that we have. So I feel like I like my queerness and how that manifests as an artist is very much like constantly taking like an outsider's perspective, and like an almost one that's like slightly to the left, like it's a little bit sideways. So I'm never going to see things in the way that like most people do. And, you know, and being a queer kid growing up, that kind of generated a lot of loneliness. And so there's a beauty in being able to access that and then kind of funnel it into the art that I make, so that other people can find their own experiences within that, if that makes sense.
It's really nice, like as a kid when you're in school, being different is looked down upon. But then if you choose the creative route, now being different is your value to a certain extent, you know.
Absolutely.
It's quite
just
nice.
Strength.
It becomes your strength.
It does.
We'll probably move on to the next question, which I think Danny's got actually.
I'll fire this one up to you. Do you think it's important to be able to define the music you make or the artist you are?
To be honest, my identity and the stuff I do always changes. So I'm quite careful of putting myself into a box or a label. Because even when I, maybe was it 7 years ago, when I got into production and everything, I used to be called ZA Music because I just wanted a simple name and all that. But then I kind of got into other things, and I was like, okay, let me just put my name, just like, you know, other people do a name, and then that can be attached to anything. And even my name is not necessarily attached to one culture.
No, I feel that.
Could you unpack that a little bit more?
Yes. So like, you know, Zachary Agaizu, like that even the surname isn't, oh, you're definitely from this country. It could be all kinds of countries really. And then the Zachary is, you know, European influence, and there's so many people around the world, maybe Israel, all different countries that have that name. But I do sometimes think, can I make like a new name that's just like simple to write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
I do think about it. I'm just thinking like maybe a different, yeah, but identity, yeah, it's a good question. Like, do I put myself, because even like recently I've been thinking of just putting like instrumentals out there, or just backing vocals, and there's a reason I don't even call myself a singer like that, because I don't want to be forced. Oh, you have to songwrite this particular way. You have to do verse, chorus, verse, and all those expectations. Like, to be honest, with music, I've listened to the catchy parts, the melodies, the beats, but I never really caught the lyrics so much unless it's really profound, something. But I'm usually mumbling like. When I listen to like music, I don't listen to all the words, and if I now say, oh, I am a singer, I am an R&B soul singer, then I have to acquire to the whole history, and if
I hear you.
And if you do something, different to that, they'll say, why are you ruining, the legacy?
What you doing? Yeah, totally. Actually, that's such a good observation. And I totally get it. Like, half the thing around identity is people's expectations, isn't it?
Definitely. It's expectations. So.
Yeah, we had a couple of interesting comments from the chat, actually. Nairi just mentioned consistency in your branding might help in marketing, but it's not realistic because we're always changing, which I think is a really good point. And they actually asked something for you, Zachary. They said, wondering what made you step away from the original name of ZA and choose your full name to represent your music?
That's a good question. Maybe that even had something to do with me accepting my identity. Because I remember even when I was ZA Music, it was just some logos and quite nice like graphics. At the time I was just beginning with things like Photoshop, and I was like, okay, I don't want people to even know I'm black, for example, so they just hear the music. Because I think at that time I was mostly doing like house, like electronic stuff. So I was like, okay, I don't want it to be. Also that I was young at the time, so didn't want anyone to look down on it. And yeah, I don't know, just as I put myself out there, probably from hearing names like Calvin Harris or these different names, you say, okay, let me just choose my full name.
Actually, I'm going to ask Danny a question related to this, which I know is cheating a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm not really. In terms of you choosing Dirty Freud as a pseudonym, like, where did that come from?
Yeah, so like the whole that just like the name specifically came from uni. Do you know what I mean? So like I was at university, I was doing creative writing with ethics.
Right. Wow. That's wicked.
Yeah, and I just got, and I was writing a lot of poetry as well. So like, but like some of it was quite dark, some of it was quite light, and all that kind of stuff was like started writing like lyrics, bars, and stuff like that for like different artists. And I was just like, I can't put myself out there. It's not my thing. And that was the main like crux of it. And then suddenly like it was one of those where it was like, oh, like we'll shout you out so you can so people know it's you. And I was like, no, like give me don't say my name. And then it became like this. And then I was like, what am I into at the moment? And I was reading, I know I sound like dead white, I was reading like Paradise Lost by like J.S. Mills, and and I was like getting into Freud and Immanuel Kant, and I was just and I just kind of like just one day just thought, Freud, he's like dead, like dirty, isn't he? He's just really dirty.
Yeah.
And I just liked it. It just stuck. And then suddenly I was just like, yeah, if something's like horrendously like awful and you can't really explain it, just call it a dirty Freud. And I was like,
that's awesome. Okay, I'm just gonna say a quick hello to Wanda, who's made it. Hey.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Actually, Wanda, would you mind just like introducing yourself and telling folks who are attending what you do?
Yeah, okay, so my name's Wanda. I'm a rapper and I'm a vocalist in Manchester. I'm also a music therapist as well. And I'm like a self-titled life coach. I just like to call myself a life coach because, yeah, I believe I am. One day other people will call me a life coach. For now, I'm self-made one.
I love it.
Like
manifesting. That's what we're talking about.
Exactly. So it's all about.
Absolutely.
Already.
Awesome. Yeah, I think like it's interesting, isn't it? Like defining the music that you make and who you are as an artist. I think it's always really interesting talking about it with people who operate under pseudonyms and or have done, and how they kind of choose to like pick which bits of themselves get kind of funneled into both the music and that identity. Actually, we've got a question here. Someone said, with pseudonyms, does having an artist name that isn't your personal name help create a boundary between your work identity and your personal identity? Is it important to differentiate between the two, or are they the same? What do we think, gang?
Wow.
It's a valid point, because you know, even with having the same name, you still have to be able to separate yourself from your work.
Yeah, I wanted to hit on it a little bit. I think sometimes, or maybe I might be changing the question slightly. But
that's all right. It can transform.
Yeah, I believe that sometimes it depends on where you are as a person, like where you are in terms of even your mental state, really, as a person, because whether some people are scared to show themselves just in general, you know what I mean? So it depends if you're in yourself, you're maybe not so scared to show all of yourself in normal life, maybe in your music, that will be you're more of a person to do that. But then with me, myself, as an example, I didn't sort of bring in my sexuality into my music until I came out, really. So I took that all away. So it's still part of my identity, but because I wasn't out to my mom and stuff like that, like I didn't want to put it in songs, because then it's like, Ras, if she listens to that song, then
oh, censoring yourself for parents is a killer, isn't it? I've caught myself doing it as well, and it's really it's tough on creativity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But now I'm thinking, no, like I'm not doing it anymore. Now, no, if I talk dirty, just like don't listen to it, or like you're an adult as well, like, so it's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of artists don't get that far. I know some artists that are still censoring themselves because they don't want their parents to listen.
I know, like I see, like I know it's a proper tough one, but I feel sometimes I feel like putting like my artist name Dirty Freud, I feel it's like an exaggeration of me anyway. It's like an extension of like what I'm doing. I like, you know, sometimes, you know, I'll say stuff where I'll be like, oh, it's a bit West, that, but I'm like, it's okay, it's your artist, it's your character.
Right, man.
Exactly, it wasn't you.
Amazing. So it doubles as an alter ego.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Clever.
No, you're giving me ideas. I might change my name to some like name that people know this guy is not someone that's gonna be trying to be mainstream or anything.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, that makes it clear. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting actually, because so I'm moving more into being a producer now, and that's like now the kind of where my path has taken me, and I'm kind of like, okay, but like I was Rooks as an artist for 7 years, and that was always quite interesting because I was in this position where I was slowly building up this character it started off as a brand, but it became a character, if that makes sense. On stage, like at first it was just like a way to kind of package myself that wasn't using my name, and so it did create a psychological boundary, and I was able to kind of switch Rooks off and then go to bed, but now it's kind of weird because it's now morphing into something else. It's now my kind of personality is now bleeding into that character, because I'm able to take Rooks back behind the scenes, because Rooks isn't going to be appearing on stages as much anymore. So it's changed again.
And you do tend to, like you do now, talk about your artist or about yourself in the third like person. Like you that as well, like one
right?
And then that's what you do, like.
I know, and it's weird.
Yeah. So it's like, it is us, but then it's like separate at the same time. Because even when I'm like press release, I'm like, Wonder is this, and I'm like, well, this is mixed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, it's such a thing. Anyway, cool. Should we do a different one?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll pick one up. Okay. Oh, this one's interesting. Are identification labels, such as communities that you might identify with, we kind of touched on some of this a little bit already, so are identification labels necessary in describing or defining artists publicly, and do we feel like they help us or hinder us?
They may be necessary for the general public, in the fact that they're necessary for the general public now, just because they brought out so many labels. So now people need to categorize them, but they wasn't needed before they were needed. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Made them when we didn't need them. So now it's like we need them, but we never. I'm getting like you know what I mean?
It's got very meta.
Yeah.
No. 100%, like for real. I feel like a lot of people like do try and put things in boxes, like especially when started first like bringing out like a lot of music, and not so much now. I think people have got the picture, but like I'd get played on like One Extra, and it would be like
yes,
and I wouldn't really understand, but I'd be like, oh okay. So I've played it, and like, you know, I had like, I'm not saying anyone, like DJ Target's been an incredible supporter, and like but like it was only when like so Spyro like came on, he was playing like dubstep, drum and bass, and then like kind of my sound suddenly got filtered to Six Music, and I was like, this is probably where I belong. And but initially people were like, what do we do with this guy? Just give him to One Extra. They'll love it. And it's just like, well, we can't play this.
That's really interesting. What do you reckon, Zachary?
Yeah, it's a good question, because for me, I hate, you know, being put in a box. But the thing is that as a consumer, maybe going to events, you know, when we used to go to clubs and all that, it's nice to know what's going to be played, what kind of style, and the genres, the things. Because I remember there's this producer / DJ that I used to follow. I mean, I still follow, but I used to use his name to find events, and I think once you become big enough, I think you become the identity. You become the label. Your name becomes the label for genre style.
Yeah. So essentially, you were using. Let me just make sure I understood that. So you were using that artist because you knew you liked that artist, and if that artist was affiliated with stuff, you were probably going to like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
okay.
I think we need to work hard to build a scene around ourselves. I think. Yeah. Where, you know, we don't have to, you know, people can just say your name and they know the whole style and everything. So that's the goal, not to have to acquire to you know, push yourself into a certain lane, but to become the lane that people want to join into.
Oh, that's profound.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I'm going to be thinking about that one for a while. Go on, Wanda, what have you got?
When I remember I did what did I do now? I did BBC introducing stage. I had like for MIF on 2019, I believe it was. They wrote up about it. At first, they was writing up about the other people that were performing, and then when they wrote about my performance, can't remember who wrote about the performance, but they said, "Oh, she was a black artist." They mentioned my colour, but everyone else that played, they were white. But just the names. Do you understand? It was the names, but we might say the white woman Phoebe Green or this. We didn't say the name. That was one of the women that played. She was sick. We didn't say the colour of them. But we said all my colour and stuff. You know what I mean? And so it was that was just a bit weird because like, why can't I just be called Wanda? Why am I the black girl and it's the first black girl that's done this? And you know what I mean? It was like, so yeah, that was a bit weird because just like I'm just girl, just put me down as Wanda, the rapper.
Right, yeah, absolutely. It's a thing.
We pushed into it with everything because even like with sexuality, pushed into it with that as well. And that's even like with me, I want to be able to inspire other lesbians or other gays or other people that want to come out, but then I still don't want to be put in that box. So I feel like I'm being snide if I don't want to be in your like box with your book. Like I don't want to be in a box, but I still want to raise you up and inspire, but I don't want to be in that box. Don't like it.
It's a tension, right? Because I mean, like what I kind of hear you saying there is like you're aware that there's an audience in that direction, and you want to engage that audience because that audience is going to enjoy what you're making. Because
and I want to inspire them to be free with who you are.
To be who they are.
You know what I mean? So be free. I want to but go on, sorry.
No, it's fine, honestly. And you want to kind of engage with that, but you don't want it to then become like a dynamic that restricts you from reaching other people. You know? Don't just want to
be rapper Wonder. Just want to be the rapper Wonder that does different things and can go in and out of like little, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I feel free to.
Yeah. Damn straight. That's what we want.
The hard thing is
not to be damn straight though.
Okay. Oh, she's on it. Well done. Nice one. Go on, Zachary.
Yeah, the hard thing is that like we have to represent something. And you know, when I used to watch all these like how to make it in music and all these marketing videos, they always say pick a niche. But if you're not specifically part of any niche, then how do you pick a niche? That's a challenge as well.
Yeah, someone's actually mentioned in the chat social media in relation to that, really, and the tension between using that to establish an artist identity and kind of how that affects stuff in the industry, or whether to let the music speak for itself, which is kind of like a massive question, and maybe we should save it. But it kind of applies to this, really, in terms of like how do we maintain that sense of self-identity, because essentially you are your niche, right?
That's also doing this. Did they not see me do this?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you are your niche. Maybe we need that on a t-shirt.
Maybe. Hey, that's all right.
I'll put 4 in t-shirt, like make you are your niche t-shirts done.
Yes. I've noticed that we've only got like a couple of minutes left. So I think, even though so there are some questions we didn't get to, but I sort of suspected that might happen.
That would happen,
yeah. But it's been absolutely brilliant. So thank you, Danny, for being my co-pilot tonight, and thank you so much to Wanda and to Zachary for being our guest panelists. And thanks to everyone who came to watch and to listen. And but yeah, it's been brilliant. So thanks everyone for your time. And we'll look forward to, I guess, to the next Vocalise panel, whenever it may be.
Tight. Yeah.
And anyone could tell me any new name I should have.
That should be the takeaway.
Yeah.
Everyone, get in touch with Zachary, pick a name, and let him know what you'd like him to be called.
Yes.
And we'll get those t-shirts made. You are your niche.
I've already been printing them.
Don't forget to reference us as your influences for those t-shirts, please.
I'm talking about a cut. Do you know what I mean?
It's already 25% each. All of us.
Yes. Sorted.